get your net, get your clothesline. No mind coming out the bottom, so for now I'm on a gold mine, living on the low for sure.
And welcome back to the videos, everyone. Today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. I'm going to be taking a couple GoPro videos from my old races and I'm going to be dissecting them. I'm going to be like showing you guys what I do in each run to like try and get my speed, and I'm going to be looking at them to try and find anything I might have been doing wrong, and then hopefully you guys can learn something from it, or if you guys have any input of your own, feel free to throw that down in the comments. So let's get into it. Alright, so for this first run, we were at Dragway 42. This was when we were on Autocross week. And we were running the tire pressure in the neighborhood of like 24 all the way around. And this is when I kind of learned that some tracks favor higher tire pressure than others. I was kind of under the impression that all tracks you want to be running like lower tire pressure. One of the guys I raced with, he was saying that he was running his Integra at like 27 a lot of times, so I just kind of stuck with that. But here I was running like 34, and I realized that's kind of the sweet spot for my car on this track. The car was a lot more composed and whatnot. So we start off with not a lot of RPMs. It was kind of a softer launch, but normally I'm launching the car in the neighborhood of 4,000 to 6,000 RPMs, because otherwise it's going to bog really bad. And then we're coming through that first hairpin and we're coming up to the slalom. And if you're new to autocross, you'll notice that there's no pointer cones in this slalom, which means there's no cones like telling you which side of the slalom you need to enter. So here you get to pick. Now, one of the things they're going to teach you in autocross is you need to be thinking ahead of the corner, and you also need to think about how you're going to set yourself up in a corner to be set up well for the next corner. So in the slalom, what side I'm entering on really depends on which side do I want to be exiting the slalom on. So if we go through the slalom, you'll notice that exiting on the right hand side sets me up better for the bus stop. Now, if you have a very agile car, maybe that might not be the ticket for you, but for me, the car handles good, but it doesn't change direction very well. So for me, entering on the right hand side meant I was exiting on the right hand side, so that's what was best for me. And then one of the things I learned at this track when I had a guy ride along with me is he was saying I was going through these slaloms nowhere nearly aggressive enough. And so I finally, on like my second to last run, I gave it everything I had through the slaloms. I thought I was going fast enough, but I went a lot quicker, and I picked up like 2 seconds, so not too bad. And then coming through this first bus stop, that cone on the left right there that's standing up, I kept clipping that cone because this car, when it comes to bus stops and just really tight corners like that, is really tricky to drive, because you need to like almost overdrive the car to get everything out of it, just because it's so underpowered. But it's also extremely easy to overdrive it too much, because it can get the car unsettled and you can actually just like almost ruin a run because you spin out or whatnot. So there's this very laser line of driving the car, and I kept hitting that cone a lot, which is probably what netted me the second place in the Cone Killer Award for this whole event. But coming through here, we're hitting the limiter in second gear, but not enough to go into third, and then coming through this bus stop here, and then back over onto the right side to get myself set up for this corner. And then coming out of this corner, I was coming a little wide there again a lot of the time. And then coming into this corner, I was hard on the brakes coming into it, so that way I could stay to the right, because if you look how I didn't go all the way over to the left, I have a sudden left-hand corner here, so I need to be keeping it tight over on the right-hand side. That way I can have some good exit speed coming out here on this corner, and then carrying a lot of speed through here. Don't use too much brakes, and then back on the throttle, and it's really fast through here, and I probably could have been a little bit faster through there. And then I'm hitting the limiter in second gear again, and then carrying through here. And through here was not difficult to drive because you literally just put your foot to the floor and give it all she's got, and then hard on the brakes into this corner, and long wind out coming out of here, and then you're coming into like a couple more slaloms and bus stops, which is not my favorite part of the course just because this car is a little tricky to get turned in. It has a little too soft of a spring and not quite enough sway bar. But overall, this course was a lot of fun. I learned a lot from it. And then this next clip comes from Brainerd when I was driving there later that week. This was like my 4th run that day. So I was giving it a lot of RPMs on the launch coming out of here, but the laser isn't until later. I just crossed it, and so I can give it quite a bit of throttle and give it some wheel spin coming out of there. And then there's a couple slaloms through here, and then coming into this gate here, I'm doing like over 50, and this course does not have a lot of grip. I'll be honest, this is not my favorite course, and coming in here, I had to slow way down because on my first run, I spun out. If you watch my video, you'll see how I spun out right here. The back end came around. One of the things about this car that I need to drive around is the fact that it's very lightweight in the back, and if you come in too hot into a corner and then just get on the brakes, the back end will come around very quickly. I've gotten pretty good at doing the technique that you do with front wheel drive cars where you turn into the corner and just put your foot to the floor, and that will kind of help correct the slide. However, sometimes it comes around really quick and there's no saving it. So on this corner, on that little like gate right there, I was having to do all my braking in the gate, and then I was able to cut through this slalom here and go around this big sweeper, which is a lot tighter than it looks. But then we're coming into a corner here where you have to hike it down into first gear, and then you're just struggling for grip even more. Now throughout the day, I was like dropping my tire pressures more and more because I was figuring out that the course really liked low tire pressure. But coming through these tight corners, I'm in first gear, which you know, I don't have a lot of power, but when I'm in first gear, it's really short and I have an open diff, so it's really easy to spin the tires, and I'm like at almost full lock, so it's really hard to like get the car out of the corner. There's just not a lot of grip and the car doesn't like to change directions, so this was a bit of a struggle. And I really don't know what I could have done better here. I was really just fighting the car to get it turned in. I don't really know like what I could have done differently. And then this run is from Dakota County Tech when we were there not too long ago. Giving it like 5,000 RPMs on the launch, and then into second gear and around this corner. And that cone on the right there is one I was hitting a lot because I was trying to carry a lot of speed out that corner. Then we're into third gear on here, and then I got a downshift into first, and it was tricky going through this hairpin because I was going into first, and then it just wanted to spin the tires due to the open diff once again. And then coming down this back straight, you're getting into third gear. So I was doing about 70 miles an hour entering this downhill section. And this downhill section, it doesn't look like there's a lot of elevation drop, but there is. It's a quick left-hander with some elevation drop. And like I was just saying, if you go in too hot into a corner and you hit the brakes, the back end will come around. Well, the course was drying up here, and I was like, oh, let's give it full throttle down the hill because I'm seeming to have a lot more grip here. And sure enough, as I'm cresting the hill, probably right about here, I realize I'm carrying way too much speed, and I'm like, I gotta hit the brakes, which was my mistake and what made the car come around like so. However, I wasn't about to just floor it and keep going because there's an S at the bottom of the hill and I'm already carrying too much speed. So I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna hit the brakes and haul the car down. So that's what I did. But if you'll notice, I quickly got on the gas again and kept going, which is what you want to do when you spin out. You don't want to just sit there hanging out. If you do need to stop for whatever reason, they'll stop the car behind you and they'll give them a rerun. But if you don't have to make them go through that, don't do that. Just keep going. And then coming through this corner here, you guys see the edge of the asphalt there where that little puddle is. You're not really supposed to do this, and I don't really recommend this just because you don't want to be pulling gravel onto the course. But I would actually like try and get my wheel hooked on that corner to try and kind of pull myself through the corner. Not really the best idea because you'll damage your wheel and it's just not really how you're supposed to drive, but that's kind of one of the things I was doing. And then coming in here, you're carrying a lot of speed and the back end keeps wanting to come around whenever I would get on the brakes, but you would keep understeering. And then coming in here, this corner was very interesting because you're going downhill and then as you're turning, you're transitioning into uphill, and more so when you're coming the other way. But when you're going through this corner, you're actually being like forced into the pavement, so you can carry a lot of speed. So by the end of this straight section, I was hitting the limiter and then slowing down through the slalom. And then this right here was also tricky because the course like came up to a peak while you're apexing, so it was kind of like trying to it was almost like a off camber corner where you're actually like, you know, tilting towards the outside of the corner, which kept wanting to force me towards that grassy section on the right, which was also not setting me up for the next corner very well. I think I was a little too lead foot and carrying too much speed through that section because I could have been going a little bit slower and kind of carried more speed through this next turn, but instead I was like, you know, tucked in really close on the entry and then trying to like fight understeer coming through that corner into the finish. So that's my take. I probably should have not used so much throttle, but I'm a lead foot driver and I like to, you know, give it everything the car's got and be on the edge of a grip, but sometimes that's not always the best. So, and this course, it also typically likes lower tire pressures in the neighborhood of like 27 psi. And I think I was running a little bit lower than that just because of the rain. I think I was running like 25. The only problem with the rain is I was having a hard time getting any heat in the tires. But let me know in the comments what you guys think. I had a lot of fun making this video, and I'm thinking I might do some more like this in the future.
I'm the king of the world. Thinking about my life in a long ride. Figured I could figure for a long time. Trying to get $1 million in the cosign.